Welcome back to the Adaptive Athlete Podcast, the place for conversations with adaptive athletes in the CrossFit space and beyond. I'm your host, Matt Hotho. On today's episode, I'm talking with Kieran Healey-Ryder. Kieran is an adaptive athlete based out of Glasgow, Scotland. And one day on a camping trip, his left leg swelled up and everything changed. Now, Kieran reached out to me via DMs and started this conversation, and I'm so glad he did, because this is the epitome of our adaptive community. I didn't know Kieran before this conversation, but he knew me and knew our community through the podcast and through doing CrossFit. So this is a bit of a longer conversation because Kieran is an amazing storyteller and a very thoughtful thinker. We talk about things like identity, loss, humor, grief, community, some amazing things about what happens when your life changes from a diagnosis. So here's my conversation with Kieran Healey-Ryder. Welcome back to the Adaptive Athlete Podcast. I'm here with Kieran Healey-Ryder. Kieran, how's it going?
Great, thank you. It's a lovely spring day in Scotland.
I love it. I love it. You reached out to me through the podcast and we started talking and we decided that we should do an episode. And I think it's phenomenal. I'm excited to have you on the show. You told me a little bit about your story through DMs, but I really want to hear it from you right now in person, and then for our audience to hear it as well, because I think it's just such a distinct story.
Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity. The podcast has really helped me, and it's a big part of the community over here. We talk about everything you put out at CrossFit.
Thank you.
In Scotland, quite often people go up to the Highlands camping, and we did that, my partner Christian and I and our two daughters, every year in a place called Palatial, a beautiful part of the world. And one day I just woke up and my daughter Lily pointed at my leg and said, "Dad, your leg's really swollen." And it was bright pink and really swollen like a marshmallow all the way from my foot up to my hip. And with it being the Scottish summer, I assumed that something had taken a bite out of my leg and decided that I was a bit tasty and left something with me.
Like a bee or a tick or some sort of just an insect that would have just stung you?
Yeah. Our national poet would call it a wee timorous beastie. That's what we call them. So yeah, a tick or something. And we had a few other dramas that meant we left home a couple of days later, which was a bit early. And I, being a middle-aged dad, didn't think too much about it and ignored it and assumed it would go away. And over the next few months, I started to limp and be in quite a lot of pain, particularly in my foot and then in my hip. And I've always had problems with the left-hand side of my body and not really thought about it. And eventually went to the doctor after my colleague Margaret threatened me quite severely if I didn't. And had the
Thank you, Margaret.
Yes, yeah. Mags is the unsung hero of this story. But the first scan came back, so I rang my mum and dad and I said, "Sit down. I need to give you some news." And I said, I'm disabled. I found out today. I've just had my scan back, and I said, "Sit down, and I'll tell you about it." So my mum sat down, and I said, "Look, in my foot, I am missing the bone that connects my toes to my foot." And without missing a beat, my very Irish mother said, "God, didn't I tell you?" Now, I'm into the middle of my 40s. I have been in communication with my mother all of that time.
All that time,
And at no point did she say, "You were missing a bone." And she then went on and described it. And at the time, they used a word that we don't use now to describe disabled people. And she said, "You were officially that." And my dad said, "Patsy, don't use that word." We don't use that word. But that wasn't the end of the story. So that surgeon encouraged me to continue running and doing CrossFit. I was very enthusiastically doing CrossFit. I wasn't allowed to do any proper weightlifting or weight competitions and things like that. So that kind of changed a bit. And a few months later, I got a letter from the insurance company that I was working with, and they said, "We'd like you to get a second opinion." And I didn't pay attention to that. It was only when I sat down in the physio, and she said, "Kieran, you've got a letter that says you should get a second opinion. You need to wear a boot." So this boot was up to over my knee. "And you need to do physio." She said, "How are you going to do physio when you're strapped up in a plastic boot?" And the pure simplicity of that sentence made me think, I should probably pay more attention. And I went and got the second opinion. And the first surgeon had been lovely. I decided then and there we'd be best friends. The new surgeon, not the same situation at all. He was a very severe gentleman. He's very great. And the good news is the best in Europe that do these things live in Glasgow, where I am. So that's good news. Yeah, I was very fortunate in that sense. He said, if they're not available, you can go to Birmingham. And I don't want to speak ill of Birmingham, but I don't want to go to Birmingham. No, Birmingham's the same. That's south of the border. So the new surgeon was very direct. And the very first thing after a brief introduction was, your leg is end of the road. He said, you have had a catastrophic failure of the bone mechanism in your leg. You're going to need several operations in your lifetime. If you have 7 or 5, that would be a good number. You will need an amputation. It will either be in your first operation or in a future operation. And with each operation, you become more and more disabled. And he said, I'm worried you're not taking it seriously enough. You need to stop asking me about what you can do after the operation and start thinking about what you can't do. And he said, the course of your life has changed in ways you cannot even begin to fathom. When you got up this morning, how you thought your life would turn out, that's gone. And your life is starting differently today.
And this is what that doctor told you, this like very direct doctor, you were telling me, the second doctor, that your life is just completely different than what you thought it was going to be. I mean, so like, how did that hit you in that, were you in a doctor's office when he's telling you this? Like, are you just sitting there hearing this for the first time?
Yeah, well, honestly, I was in actually what was the private home of one of the wealthiest Scotsmen that had built all of the ships that had gone around the world. It was a huge palatial thing that had been bought by the hospital and converted. So
oh my gosh.
Part of the problem was I was looking around all of these beautiful paintings and woodwork and ceilings, and then I sat down. I wasn't really in the room when he started talking to me.
Yeah.
And I'm quite chatty, you know, a very Irish family. I'm quite chatty. So I can see why he thought I wasn't taking it seriously. I'd left my partner and the dog down in the car because I thought, well, it's just another appointment. And I didn't really respond, but I came out and I just burst into tears I made the floor of this palatial stately home quite wet. I cried properly and I didn't speak when I got in the car. Christian just said, "You okay?" And so I can't speak right now. And I didn't really speak for several hours. The dog came and found me and sat with me on the bed. And there was just a dull white space in my brain. I wasn't thinking. There was not a lot going on upstairs. I was just sitting with it. I was just letting it land.
Yeah.
But other than that one day, I haven't had that same sense of loss like I had on that day. I've now had, I think what I talked to my counsellor about is I'm feeling the loss now and I'm feeling the trauma now, but in very small micro moments every day in different ways. And there's been a lot of humour there. So for the first time ever yesterday, I spoke at a conference since all of this happened. One of the things that's happened is because I'm so unstable, I was falling over so much in Scotland. It rains. The rain is not the friend of someone with a dodgy foot. I fall over all the time.
And the roads are not paved. Right? I mean, a lot of stuff is like cobblestone, right? I don't mean to make it seem like Scotland is super old. It is, but I would imagine that the terrain is pretty rough.
No, I mean, you have not been to my house yet, but when
I have not been to your house,
you'll see there are cobbles in the front and out the back. Okay. There isn't a single straight road in Glasgow. The council, the people that run the city, are in trouble for not keeping the roads maintained. And if I thought anyone would read it, I would write a book of the comparative usefulness of tiling in the cities of Scotland, because honestly, the paving in Glasgow is actually okay. When I went up to Perth and Edinburgh, my goodness, just a little bit of water. It's like an ice skating rink. It's not that interesting to most people. But so I did this conference yesterday, first time and I used to speak a lot. I used to be someone else, I think. I used to be quite, I'm comfortable in my skin. I'm nowhere near as confident as the person I used to be. And conferences were just one of those things that I just didn't feel like I had it in me. It was a lot of people. It was in an IMAX cinema, so big posh thing. And I'd done it when my legs were working, but actually the last time I spoke there, I actually tripped on my working legs and fell flat on my face. So
while
I was
speaking? While speaking?
On the way to the stage. And there was
on the way to the stage. Okay.
Big entrance music. Ladies and gentlemen, Kieran Healey-Ryder, slam on the floor. The bottle of liquor I had in my hand left my hand and flew off. It didn't smash. And that was when I thought my legs were working. So this time I was extra specially careful. And I just felt like it was a safe space. But I was so relieved after I'd done it. And there's a thing about when your mobility isn't reliable, being in big crowds of people is quite stressful. I find myself, I was absolutely exhausted the following day. But after the conference, a few friendly people that came out of the woodwork and said, "We've been really concerned. We've not seen you. Tell us about what's happening." And I trusted them, so I told them this story. I had to go and get blood tests after I'd met the bone doctor with no personality, but apparently the best there is. So after I'd met him.
After he made you cry in this palatial palace of
Ross
Scotland's greatest people.
Well, I'm not speaking to his ethics because he was a businessman.
Oh, okay.
But he was very successful.
Yeah.
So you need to know that I was sent to have blood tests just to check it wasn't cancer. And thank God it's not cancer. And I think that's one of the things that struck me throughout this whole journey. So there are so many things that are worse than losing the use of your leg. I still have my humor, and if my partner Christian was here, there would be a comedic retort to that. But for what it's worth, I still have my humor, which was helpful when I went to get my bloods taken, because I went to the bathroom and never been to this place before, and off I went with my stick. And at this point, I think we all do this, right? I didn't use the disabled facilities. I'm going to use the normal facilities.
Yes.
Well, I shouldn't have done that, because with my over-the-knee Cyndi Lauper style kinky boot, it's somewhat restrictive. Given that the boot's there to help me move around, why on earth is it so restrictive? So as a gentleman, if you need to sit to use the bathroom, you just lower yourself down and away you go. And statistically speaking, you will land where you're supposed to land. But Cyndi Lauper was on my leg. I got to about whatever degrees that, 45 degrees, 45, I don't know. And that's maths. And it's a podcast, so nobody knows what I'm talking about. But at a certain degree, I couldn't lower myself with control anymore. I just had to assume I was in the right place. But I wasn't. I got wedged, my middle-aged dad bod, between the wall of the cubicle and the seat. And because I have a good sense of humour, I started laughing. The more I laughed, the more stuck I got. And this poor, beautiful nurse was at the door knocking, saying, "Mr. Healey-Ryder, do you want me to help you?" And I thought, dear God, the last thing I need is help. I'm like, I couldn't control myself. Back to crying. I lied to you earlier. I actually cried that time, but with laughter. I had a Tide mark on my T-shirt of just water where I'd been crying. Now, the reason it's important that you know this was a new facility is I then had to grab the toilet seat and the toilet roll holder and pull with all of my might to get myself out. And after a little bit of calming down, I did. And honestly, Matt, I then washed my hands like I have never, ever washed my even in COVID, I wasn't washing my hands as much as I washed them this day. And off I went for my tests, and it wasn't cancer, but it's a good story.
Wow.
Yeah. So now I have a new surgeon, and
you've never, have you ever gone back to this place? Have you ever had a second shot at sitting down on that John, or has it to redeem yourself?
I know I probably should. I should.
Yes.
I should see. Well, I'm all regularly. Can I say, if you ever need to see a great disabled toilet, the Scottish Parliament building, honestly, 5 stars, would recommend.
All right.
Beautiful.
If anybody keeps rankings of disabled toilets, we need to add that one to it.
No, not if anybody. That's something else I've started to do.
Oh, good.
You have to. Well, oh my God. How much do we have to plan our transport? When I eventually built up the nerves to leave Glasgow, so I'm not allowed to drive because I can't fit with my boots before the operation in the car. So I went down to London on the train, which I'd done a million times. And I hadn't realised that the platform and the train aren't friends. So there's a massive step down. And God bless the young lady that was with me. She helped me all through my cases. And again, there's a whole pride thing in that. That's the first time I kind of ever accepted public help, but it's very nice. And then there's a huge, we call it an escalator. You know that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the escalator. That. So being a Scottish word is gallus, but it means a bit too proud, maybe a bit arrogant. I was a bit gallus. And I went on the escalator as if both my legs were still working. And the escalator stopped working. So I'm there with a horde of army Londoners and some Scottish people off the train waiting to go onto the underground in London. And the thing had stopped. And I'm all right, as we know from my toilet story, I'm all right going up, quite hard going down. And I had them, they were shouting, they were heckling. And I was probably bright red. Yeah. Because I had my case. I was like, guys, I'm so sorry, but it will take as long as it takes. And then I have never had so many apologies because I then took myself to one side when I got down the escalator and like everyone was apologizing. Like, please stop. Like, I don't need the apologies. I'm quite embarrassed. I'd like to just shrivel up and hide. Thank you. But yeah, my new surgeon's quite funny. He's very young, which is painful if you're in your 40s, man. It's not. Because
you're so successful.
Yes. And I also was thinking about the fact that if I need to have 7 operations in my lifetime, then at least I'm getting like a younger model that will grow with me.
That's right.
You know,
you guys are going to get to grow up together.
Yeah. The first surgeon, he did say to me, Kieran, you need to understand, no one's ever seen this before. It's really rare, especially in your age. And you're going to be part of my learning journey. Like, wow. Things that very experienced consultants probably ought not say.
Right.
Yeah. And I still didn't cry. Not right then.
Not right then. Okay, so that second doctor, when he sat you down, obviously in this palace, and he tells you, you know, hey, you should really like think about, you know, not doing a lot of physical activity. You had just said before, though, that you were actually doing physical activity, that you discovered this while on a camping trip with your family. You'd been doing CrossFit, that kind of thing. So what was that journey like for you then, going from having an active lifestyle to being told by medical professionals, maybe not, to going, okay, wait a second, what do I actually want for myself out of like an active lifestyle?
I think, and it's also broader, right? I think what do I want for myself is the fundamental. Yeah. That's the chapter of the journey I'm in right now, just trying to work that out. So initially, I don't think I took it seriously enough. I've been fortunate. I worked for a high-end liquor company in Scotch whisky and was traveling the world representing Scotland, often flying once or twice a week, or at least going up to where we make the whisky in Scotland or down to London. And it's such a cliche, but I absolutely took it for granted because one day it stops. And but in my case, it was no longer that people didn't want me to go. It was that I just couldn't. I went to Portugal, which is a regular place for me, and big shouts out to the guys at CrossFit Foch there, which is my kind of home from home CrossFit gym. And I was there that week and hosting as if everything was fine. And I would host during the day. It was a commercial partner from Taiwan that I knew really well. They were coming over to see how we made our whiskey with bits from Portugal. And I was going home and crying into the pillow with pain in my leg and up my back, because by that point I shouldn't have been working. But I pushed through that week and I came home. It wasn't until, this was kind of April, May time, it wasn't until the end of June that I actually said I need to stop working. And to be honest, it was only because people around me said, you're being quite sure. You're being quite, I mean, I am sure, but I was being, you're being quite direct. You're not, that's not okay. That's not how you normally behave. Like, and, I think, and like coming home and not necessarily, I wasn't direct and rude at home, but I was definitely not as available emotionally and mentally for the kids or for Christian or for my friends. And I think
because all that energy was being used up in surviving.
It's that, is it fight or flight?
Yeah. I
was fighting it. I absolutely wasn't prepared to. I think it's a little bit about identity. I think I've always been a bit of a workaholic, and had a nicer thing to say is I have a very strong work ethic. I say work's really important to me, and because I'm really an ambassador, a storyteller for what we do. So it's a lot of my personality is tied up with, the Dalmore is a Scotch whiskey. The Dalmore shows up. Oh, there's Kieran from the Dalmore. There's a lot of that goes together, and that's that's small a arrogant, but there's a fear that if you're not there, what's your role? There's a fear that if you're not working, who are you? In our family unit, Christian gave up work to look after the girls. I was the dad that went to work to earn the money. Like what happens? And then it's a bit like, oh, well, I won't think about that. I'll just keep moving. And you reduce the opportunity to be thinking because your head can be a negative space. And I think during COVID, which I worked all the way through, I used to be a really addicted long distance runner. And oddly, always had problems with my left leg. Now I know why. But I always used to say to people, you can outrun any emotion, and any problem you have when you start running, you don't have when you end. Well, when COVID came and I was still working and then had to homeschool 2 kids, that became quite a negative place. And that's what drew me into CrossFit. I was passing CrossFit every day in Glasgow. We've got about, I don't know how many members we have. We had about 400 people sign up for the Open this year. So it's a big box.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And it has a weightlifting gym as well. And now what I would say to people is, if you are holding a bar button above your head, you can't think about anything else.
Right.
Because you will get hurt. So don't run, lift weights, guys. That's the solution. So I think I had people around me that said you need to stop work. And I did. And I found that, oh my goodness, I found that the hardest thing of this whole thing was to stop, because just to stop, because then that left me alone with my thoughts, and that wasn't necessarily it wasn't a door I wanted to open, although I have now and since opened it. Counselling, medication for support in all areas, an awful lot of coding. More pills than I can count in the evening and the morning. That's a thing. And I went back to the gym, and the gym is owned by Ian and Gavin, who are really active in the affiliate community. And Colette runs the weightlifting gym with a guy called Andy. And I was all ready to hand my badge back in and just say, look, I'm leaving. I've come in to tell you I'm leaving because I'd like to, because I think there's
I can't do this anymore, or it's going to be too hard, or because by that point I'd been told not to do it. Okay.
And I had taken all of that on face value. And I went in and said, I've been told not to do this. And Colette said, don't do that now. Maybe you'll get there, but I don't think that's today, and it doesn't need to be today. And then she called Andy over, and Andy said, yeah, don't be ridiculous. The Glaswegian senior police officer, he was very direct, really nice guy. And he, they said, don't do it now. Maybe you will get to that, but we've all got things wrong. And then Colette shared with me her shoulder operation that I hadn't really known she was going through. And then started name checking quite a lot of people in the Glasgow community that were in some way bionic, Iron Man-esque. And, he basically said, you're not right special. Get in there and lift some weights. So I went back, and I, a little while later, discovered the Adaptive Open. And the guy, I started messaging some of the guys on there, and I took part in the Adaptive Open in 2025, very much as a let's see how it goes. So I entered in the lower minor category. I think I probably will move up a category because this is a progressive disease. So, and the bones are failing. And that's also been really hard. What I could do last year, I can't do now. So I used to be able to do a box step up on each leg, but I can't really use my left leg for that anymore. I just fall over. Yeah. This year's Open has been a bit different because I've been more organised and I've understood well. I think Shay and the team may say I don't always listen to how it works, but I always ask for adaptations based on what I think I need. Mm-hmm. And they've actually been quite challenging, but it's been really positive because I've done stuff in 2026 that I decided I couldn't do. So RX wobbles, I was using lighter weights because I can't really squat. I can squat, I just have to squat on my right leg and pretend my left one doesn't exist. Yeah. But yeah, so I think the journey's been really hard, but I'm no longer working. And that happened, it kind of happened in earnest on the 31st of January this year, but I kind of knew it was going to happen from October. And again, that's a whole nother conversation. I'm not even sure I've spoken about this out loud, but I don't think I have spoken about it out loud until today. I don't know how I feel about. It's a little bit like I want to say I've lost the use of my leg, and that's not the worst thing that's happened, but it's really hard, and I do believe that. But it's really hard to isolate the leg from the job, from life, from the girls moving out and growing up. Like there's just a whole lot of things that are really hard to isolate. On my darkest day, I wasn't going to say this, I will say it. On my darkest day, I am able to think I had 12 years of being an adoptive father and working in that company, 10 years in that company. And I gave that everything whilst I had 2 working legs. Now, my kids have grown up. I don't have my job and I've only got 1 working leg. Mm-hmm. And that's when but the good news is that those days are less frequent, I think.
Yeah. That feeling, I can imagine that's a feeling of regret, of wishing that you had used that time a little differently. But there's still opportunity, right, to decide how you use the time now with the 1 leg that you do have.
Yeah. And I think I can't name check everyone within the Glasgow community, and I can't even name check every box, but there were 5 or 6 boxes I've trained in. When I've traveled for work, my work were really, really good about allowing me time to go and train. And that, working in the alcohol industry as a relative non-drinker, I drink but not often, and I'm an active person. So having that balance is really important to me. So they supported on that. So every box has been good, but above and beyond is Glasgow. That's where I spend most of my time. And they're the people that come in and one trainer on the rower. The rower is fun. The rower is not designed for someone that leans on one way. No.
You only strap in 1 leg, right?
I only strap in 1 leg. I know that now. Where were you 12 months ago, man? Because I strapped in, I can't really lean forward to unstrap myself. So I was then stuck. I needed help.
Okay.
Again, laughing a lot. So one trainer gave me a little trolley with 4 wheels. Yeah. And then another trainer wrapped that on with the bands that you use for banded good mornings. And then another trainer came in a few weeks later and went, no, I've got a better idea, and got a strap from the weightlifting gym and strapped me in. And then a few months later, Graham, another trainer, said, why don't you just use a foam roller?
Yeah.
So much easier.
So much easier.
As it happens, those things are fine, apart from in CrossFit, where the demon gods of CrossFit normally program things with such a quick changeover that none of that's possible. Mm-hmm. But it's been really, it's been really good. I think we were talking the other minute around social media, and I am very active within my work, not within my personal life. And there's a lot of chat right now in Europe around how dangerous the algorithm can be for surfacing the wrong kind of content to the wrong kind of people. But for me, oh my goodness, it's been so positive to find, not just to find you and chat to you, and not just to find people that are in adaptive CrossFit, but people that have that make me realize how insignificant in a way my mobility issue is. And even when I get to the amputation, when it comes, the various operations along the way, I don't know in what order it will happen, but whenever that day comes, there are still people who have other things that I think could be more challenging, and there are other medical conditions, and there are other life conditions and things of that nature. So I think social media world and the ability to connect with people, I can't imagine what it would have been like 20 years ago when we had, what did we have, MySpace.
We didn't have ways to connect 20 years ago. And you were talking so much about the value of the community in this journey, just the ability to find that through social media, to find examples, to see people. But then I think even closer to home, you've talked about the community that you have at CrossFit Glasgow. You were saying that your daughters did the Open this year, and one of them kind of got into it a little bit, right?
Yes, in quite a significant way. Lily is the most competitive person I know, and I know a lot of professional CrossFitters. She is 14, and she will beat you if she can. Nutrition and rest are the two pillars of active life that she needs to focus on.
Okay, don't tell her that. Don't tell her that if you don't want to get beat.
I mean, that's a good point, although she's in a different category now, so it's okay. But it's really good. In our gym, we have a kids class and a seniors class. Lily doesn't live here anymore, so she's doing it separately. But she's really into it, and that's good. And then our eldest daughter, who is an adult now, as she keeps telling me, she's been telling me that for years, actually. But she desperately wanted to take part, and I think on reflection, that was just about getting a badge. So I bought them both the badge. So she's got the badge on her bag. I don't know necessarily that she has taken part, but I won't ask.
All right. All right.
They seem happy. When the girls first came to live with us, and it was maybe that first summer, so they would have been 2 and 5, I think, and we had a house with a garden. And at the end of it, the previous owners had built a Wendy house, like a little playhouse for kids. And it was really sweet because we could see them from the kitchen. Like, we're good parents. Like, it wasn't that far away, right? But we were watching. And every so often, Lily would come out the Wendy house and run down this relatively long path to the house and then run back. And you could see Amelia cooking, or she says cooking, but there was a lot of stuff going on, which is actually how she cooks now as an adult. But so she was doing that. And it was like, what are you guys doing? And Amelia said, oh, I'm being Papa, Christian. And Lily said, oh, I'm being you, because you always go running. So we've always had that in common. So it's really nice. And yeah, I think working out with your kids is a really humbling, but a special thing to do. Nothing makes you feel old like, being beaten by a 14-year-old daughter.
This episode is brought to you by Equip Products. Whether you're a seated athlete, a single-arm lifter, working through a neurological impairment, or coaching someone who is, Equip has the tools to make the gym actually work for you and for your adaptive athlete. They're partnered with WheelWOD, trusted by PTs and coaches, and they're the go-to source for adaptive fitness gear. Go explore everything they carry at equipproducts.com. There's something there for almost every adaptive athlete. I can imagine, though, to kind of think a little bit more about your story. I mean, how that sense of the time that you do have with your daughters, getting to do that now with your disability, still being able to find this fitness outlet with them, something like CrossFit. And this is not to glaze on CrossFit necessarily, but the idea that it is so infinitely adaptable and scalable that you and your daughter can do a workout together. You with one leg, her at 14. And you guys just get to sweat and throw down together. There's not a lot of sports that make that easily accessible for people in that way.
I agree. I think in general, one of the things I found right around the world, really, most CrossFit boxes seem to be in a really unassuming location. So the Hollywood gym is just, in a residential street. You wouldn't know it was there unless you were going to it. The gym here is under the railway arches. The one in Porto is, it's the kind of place where you would imagine that nefarious activities being done and dusted, and then you go in, and it's Portugal, right? I don't know if you have padel in the States yet?
Pickleball, so something like that.
Massive racquetball stadium, and then out the back, one of the nicest CrossFit gyms in the world. Really, really beautifully done. So they're all in really unassuming places, but they come with an intimidation factor. And I think a lot of people, before they join CrossFit, if they're looking at it, the buildings themselves don't lend. The one I train in Spain, in Jerez, is on an industrial estate, and they literally have the roller door that rolls up, and instead of it being a glass manufacturer or an Amazon warehouse, it's a CrossFit gym. And where do you go running? Well, you run on the road. That's just what you do. But that's an intimidating space to go into. Whereas if you think of mainstream chain retail gyms, they think about the welcome and they build in the welcome. But I think as all of us know that have gone into a CrossFit gym, it's the people that make it welcoming. And it doesn't matter whether it's any of those locations, it's welcoming. My favorite gym in the world is in Taipei. It's a converted subway station. And it's above the escalators. Don't ask me to pronounce it. They will make fun of me, but they will be listening to this podcast. But yeah, one of the best things. So I think there's an intimidation factor, but the adaptability of CrossFit is there. There's the whole mentality for all of us that scaling isn't failure. And adapting isn't failure. But then I think for people like myself, if you're an overthinker, CrossFit's great. But I had persuaded myself I couldn't do a burpee. Now, you might say, Matt, Kieran, no one likes burpees. You're just being lazy. And you might be right, but you might be wrong. But there is a competitor in our gym called Michael Canning, who looked at me like I was talking another language and said, can you just throw yourself on the floor and then you get up? You fall over all the time. You just throw yourself on the floor and then you get up. Yeah. Well, 26.3 this morning, I was throwing myself on the floor, getting up, hopping over the bar, throwing myself on the floor. Yeah. And obviously not. So it's interesting. It's not just about saying that you can scale a workout is fine, but you need the people to encourage you to do that and let you know that if you fall on your bum, no one's laughing at you. There are people with 2 legs and 2 arms that fall over, and that's fine. It's just there are still things I can't do, and I think that's I talked about earlier about the micro moments of realizing I'm not okay with it all yet. But just little like I'm so slow walking. I can do 100 burpees in a relatively okay time frame, but I can't run to the bus. I can, if somebody walks into me in a supermarket, I'm going to fall over. I can't drive. I live in a beautiful house. We're having to sell it. It's on the market because Amazon quite often ring the bell and I'm not there in time to get the delivery. It's just things like that are really frustrating. And I think, I don't know how well you dream, but I must have good dreams because I wake up and quite a lot of the time I forget. And I'll swing out of bed and I'll put my feet down and I'm like, ow.
Yeah. Brandon Mance talked about that, actually. That was the first time I heard about it. I grew up with my disability, so I've never had dreams where I don't have it.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
I've never had dreams where I don't have it. I always have it in my dreams.
That's really, I guess that's right. Of course. I have a terrible memory anyway before the medication. But I do try. But it's been good. We got a puppy, so we're a big dog family, and we got a puppy. But because we've had him since a puppy, he's trained. We've trained him. So if we're going, there's a few steps over the railway here, and he's trained to sit. And then an hour or so later, I've done the 5 steps. But and then I call Henry to come up with me. So that's been quite good. It's bizarre, isn't it? I can't walk more than about 50 meters. Yeah. But I can do 30 wobbles and not really moan about it too much. That's bizarre, isn't it? It's two things that seem like they don't go together can be true at the same time. And I think that's the adjustment I haven't quite finished making, I think.
Yeah. And I think you hit on something a bit earlier in the conversation that was really true, is that, you had that really difficult conversation with the doctor where you just felt like your mind was empty, right? You spent like a few hours just really processing all of it. And then since then, you've had these micro doses of it in some ways that you've admitted, that I can tell from your personality, you kind of handle with humor, right? With humor and with gregariousness, and these things are just who you are. And that's not bad, right? That's what we're meant to do, as your counselor would say. That's how we deal with the tough things in life. The hard thing is, I think that it's going to continue changing as you because you have this not progressive necessarily, but kind of this experience that you're waiting to kind of see how it ends, kind of how it, through amputation or whatever that looks like for you, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'm really ready for whatever is on the other side of this. It sounds like some sort of normalcy.
I think I'm not, everything up until the last sentence is correct.
Okay.
I'm definitely not ready for what's next. I think none of us know how much resilience we have until we need it. It's like a tap that you didn't even know was there. And it's exhausting, right? Being always on and always adapting and always stressed about, and you're thinking all the time. And because I don't have a medical route, and because it is really rare and it is progressive and changing all the time, and because I am now on my 5th surgeon, there's no plan. There's no runway.
Okay.
You can't point me at stuff. Like with my asthma, I have medication for that. You can't point me at a treatment that will work because there's no one else here that's done it before. There's a lot of the smaller procedures get done all the time, but I've got a big hole opening up inside my leg and no one's dealt with that before. So I met the new surgeon. He is relatively young, and a bit like when we first started talking, just like I relatively instantly trusted him. And one of the biggest things in that conversation was he asked me about my Dalmatian, and he asked me about my kids, and he asked me about CrossFit. And then he said, I want to develop a treatment plan for you that allows you to live the best version of your life that you will be able to do. He said, that will not be forever. It might be that you have this operation, and then 2 years later, you need the next one. And it's a relatively short period of time. But he said, that is better. So to the end of my foot is still there. Apart from my missing bones in my toes, the lower part of my foot from the midfoot and the toes is healthy. So the surgeons won't want to take that until they have to. It's just that the bits between there and my mid leg are crumbling.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet. And in a way, fast forwarding isn't really an option. And I have chatted to people online, and I won't name them because it's quite a personal conversation. I've chatted to people online through Instagram and X that have had the amputation. And I am aware that people ask for the amputation because of the pain, and my pain is immense. It's always there. But I think I will be guided by him. But I've met a surgeon that I trust, which feels like a really special thing. It's funny how with surgeons, with a conversation like this one with you, and with CrossFit trainers, there's like a common thread. So for me, this conversation today is like really powerful, and it's such an honor to talk to you and be on it, but it's also really nice just to have a bit of time just to talk about these things. And I think that's really special, but you'll be like, yeah, I'm doing a few of these, but I appreciate it. Surgeons are the same. Like you go and see a surgeon, and for me, that will live rent-free in my brain for 6 months and be so, so important, even though I know he's on to the next one. And it's the same with CrossFit trainers. Like every time I say thank you to someone for helping me adapt, they just shrug their shoulders and say, yeah, why are you thanking me? This is just what I do. And I kind of love that. I think the truth of this situation is it's horrendous. My legs I live in Scotland. We talk about independence all the time, even though it's an unsaid rule that nobody should talk about independence because you never know whether they're one way or the other. Well, my leg is staging its own independence movement. That's happening. And it's been amazing how helpful people have been, but not just in my life now, but people that have reached out for my life forever. I just was saying to you earlier yesterday, I did my first big conference in 18 months because the thing that's absolutely left the building is my confidence. And I didn't really I don't talk to people. I sit at my computer quite a lot of the time. And And I hadn't been in a room full of people other than CrossFit, and that doesn't count because they're not real people. Right? But I was in, they were like some serious professionals. There were suits, there were shirts. Doing that was a really, really big deal, but it was so nice afterwards that people were coming up, and actually I spent the evening sharing with them some of the stories I've shared with you.
And I appreciate what you said about how helpful for you it is to be able to have a space to just be able to articulate where you're at right now, what you're experiencing, what you're feeling. I've never thought about that as something that this podcast offers, because I think sometimes I think about what I get out of it. Which is, the ability to hear these stories and be inspired myself and motivated by what this community does, which is amazing. So that's beautiful to hear that that's the gift that this opportunity is giving to you as well. And that CrossFit trainers, adaptive CrossFit trainers, give that gift to their clients all the time too, when they listen to them and really take the time to hear what they're going through.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think there's a comparative problem when you have a mobility issue or you have a health condition like we have, because do I think your situation is more serious than mine? Possibly. Did I, when we first speak, was that on my mind? Like, how do I have this conversation with this man that I've really enjoyed listening to? Like, I've never actually had, we've had a long conversation now around my leg, your situation. I've never actually had a conversation with another person in a different category about how these things affect them. Like, I've not had that opportunity, and there are loads of people that are missing legs like that. We find each other very slowly. We find each other.
You are in the legless algorithm. You have found that algorithm.
Yeah, found each other. I also think if they ever make another zombie film, I'm like, here, I can act, and I walk pretty much in that way now. So,
there you go.
I think we need to set up an acting agency for everyone that's lost a leg or is losing a leg. It'd be amazing.
They'll do 28 decades later. It'll be like a zombie apocalypse film, just set really, really,
and I'll
really
still
far
be walking down the escalator at Euston Station. I think, and it's when I say I'm not ready, I feel like we don't have any right to be ready for anything. All we can do is be as prepared as possible. And I feel like I've been so surprised by life in the last 2 years, and it has been horrendous is the word everyone uses about your life. It's so nice when people describe your life in the words that they have, but they are right. It's just funny. If you were to we asked a survey, how would you describe Kieran's life? 100 people said horrendous. I think two things are true. I had trusted that when I saw a medical professional, they would give me an answer. I work in business. I work in a land of A plus B equals C. Mm-hmm. But C was wrong. C was like a Greek alpha. It wasn't anything to do with the alphabet. Mm-hmm. I had trusted that I'd get a scan and they go, it's this. Well, that and why would I think that? Because that isn't how health works. It's all soft edges and grey lines, and it's probability. The only definite thing about my condition is that the leg will fail and will go. Mm-hmm. What happens between now and then is just unknown. And I think I'm just getting used to that. That's why I'm not quite ready. But I think I spent a long time thinking about amputation as the quickest route to get to the end state, and then to have a life fully adapted and with all of that. But I totally underestimated actually everything that comes with amputation, like the pain, the arthritis, the constant checkups, and all of that good stuff. And actually the community helped me understand that without any judgment. Actually, no one's ever said to me, you're mad. Although I think that might be self-evident. The people have really helped me understand things that I've just not thought about. And that's also true. You see the physical thing. I did a form for the government and I got reprimanded because I answered all of the physical questions and ignored all of the mental questions.
Interesting.
And they rang me and they said, well, you can't have that and answer those questions. It doesn't make sense. And she said to me, how do you feel? She said, how often do you fall? At that point, daily. It's got a bit better with my new... I've had to really work on my upper body strength. I just didn't really have any. So that's been amazing. CrossFit's been good for that. So I fall less. And if I fall, I can get up more easily. I said, I fall daily, twice a daily. Normally, we have to get in. I've got a shower over a bath, so I have to get in and over that. That's what I try to. And she said, what do you do if you fall? So I phone my partner, call my partner Christian. And she said, how does that make you feel? I said, it makes me feel terrible. And she said, well, you've not answered that question.
Yeah.
Like, that's on the form. You're supposed to answer the question. Like she said, so I had to redo it. But I think you don't know what you don't know. And with health, I don't know. There are so many health conditions that are much more serious and significant. But with everything, it's just no one person is the same. One person's experience is different. But equally, you look at it and you think, okay, that guy's leg's not working. But actually, there's 100 other things that come with that. I went back to work, and a person who will remain nameless said to me, "Oh, we just thought you'd get better." That kind of killed me that day. The day that was the day that I realised to start talking about it more.
Yeah.
And to not take for granted that people understood. People don't understand. And why would they? Why would you expect someone to understand? It looks, you could think I've broken my leg. You know?
And we know what happens with that.
Yeah.
Right? Like a lot of people know. Yeah.
Yeah, you get your cast.
Right.
You might think I just like wearing my Cyndi Lauper plastic boots over my knee. You know? Nope. You might think I like using that special toilet just to make myself feel special. No. I am. Yeah, it's very interesting. I write a lot, and that's been good. And I genuinely still tell people, people say to you, what have you done to your leg? And I say, well, I don't know, because that's true. And then they say, what are they going to do about it? And I start to say, that it will be amputated, which is the truth. And to start off with, it was really embarrassing for the person and for me, but I was getting asked it all the time, so I stopped. But latterly, I've just been a bit more honest, partly through Schadenfreude, but also I think the more you talk about it, the more you discover other people, particularly in CrossFit. The number of people in Glasgow that have got a rebuilt knee or a hip or a shoulder, and they're younger than me or they're older than me, and they've got all of these things. I particularly find within the adaptive community the number of ex-military personnel that have had some really significant traumas in the field of duty, or people that have had really significant accidents in their non-work life. Like, I think it's just really interesting that you see the best of people, right? Listening to this podcast or listening to people talk about it, like you absolutely see the best of people. And thank God we've got technology in a place where we can connect right around the world between Florida and Glasgow. And I think it must have been so much harder a little while ago. But then looking forward with a progressive disease, at least you ought to be. If I had one wish for your podcast, if Elon Musk is listening, or any other senior technology bro, and they can just divert a little bit more money to R&D in prosthetics, I'd really like to have a prosthetic that does a few more things. I've got a list. I'd like it to sort out my washing for me. I'd like to have a robotic device on my leg that can sort out my washing. I'd also like it to get a bit bigger. So when I'm in Edinburgh, surrounded by, I'm going to be honest with you, Matt, American tourists, and they just walk en masse through Edinburgh. Like there's 20 or 30 of them. I don't know who's left in America during the summer, but they're all in Edinburgh. And they just walk at you. I'd like my leg just to get a bit bigger, to flash like a police car, maybe play a bit of music. Just there's a guy coming here, stand back. Maybe to remind me if I've left the car unlocked. Yeah. I was hoping it'd be a little bit more butch than that, but or some maybe what's that thing the New Zealand rugby team do? The haka. Yeah. Maybe it should go. Oh! Yeah, that's what we need. So that's my wish. That's why I came on the podcast, is for Elon Musk to help us with prosthetic development in the future.
Oh man, that Venn diagram that has the Adaptive Athlete podcast and Elon Musk in it is. I don't know where that third circle is going to connect those two together. We're going to have to find something.
I was watching a program the other day about the self-driving cars. Yeah. And I'm like, I have got a purely organic self-driving leg. all of the, without in any way disrespecting the people who've been affected by the accidents, but actually my leg behaves in strange and mysterious ways. Like I'm going right and that leg's going left. Like that's just what happens. But yeah, it's quite interesting. I don't think I'm alone in having humour in the face of disability. I think that's something we all develop. Yeah, like it's like a muscle that we know was there.
Yeah. I think it helps us just kind of not take it so seriously.
I mean, that's true, because it is serious, and it doesn't matter it doesn't matter if we talk about it in a serious manner or not. Mm-hmm. There's no one doing the truth of it. You know, the truth is 3 good limbs. You know, the truth is, you know, your genetic code is different. Someone else's genetic code, or whatever it is, that's just the truth. So once you've communicated the truth, move on. Like, it doesn't need a big discussion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's hard to talk about disability too. And humor is always a really good way to kind of break the ice and get people comfortable just kind of being around it, talking about it.
Yeah. I think within the classification system, and I may well have been trying our friends at Organised Wheel World this year, as I've been trying to work out how I do it and which group I'm in. But the world treats disability as an amorphous blob. Mm-hmm. But actually, there's every dimension of humanity, every brilliant difference that the human race has is represented in the disabled community, in the adaptive community. And so there's much more interesting things to talk about. Let me tell you about my brilliant but Irish mother. Let me tell you about my ambitions to play for Scotland, except I'm playing on a particular team for one-legged people because that's how good I am at football. Like, let me tell you about what my kids got up to at school this week. Let's not just spend all of the time talking about my leg falling off, you know. That will happen.
Yeah.
This might be the one time I meet a friend and they say, "Oh, tell me about your leg." And I'm like, "Well, this is the 50th time this week." But obviously for them, I'm the only person that they know who's losing their leg.
Yeah.
I'm interesting. I like to imagine.
Right. No, I mean, you are correct. I mean, you are interesting. And those things about one-legged football, the writing that you do, you know, raising your daughters. I mean, those are all things that definitely make you.
It's funny, when we first got on this call before we started recording, and all the things we talked about were just life, and nothing to do with disability. And I love that, and I think that the community has that, and that's why it feels like a safe space, because you're just that little bit less interesting. Mm-hmm. On the other side of it, I kind of get a kick out of the thought that in Glasgow University, which is a really prestigious medical school, there are super blown up pictures of my middle-aged dad legs and my failing bones over an 18-month period that they are reviewing and using as a case for a rare progressive skeletal disease. So when I leave this earth, my legs will still be here.
That's right. And that's what any dad would want. Dads train their legs, you know, they try and show those things off. Well, Kieran, as we get ready to wrap up, I thought I'd try something a little different.
Okay.
You inspired me kind of with your comment about, you know, hey, we started this talking about not disabled things, and like I have more going on in me than just my disability. So here's a question for you. What's one good thing, not related to CrossFit or anything like that, just one good thing that's going on in your life right now?
I started writing a book, and the first brand that said they were interested was owned by a well-known film guy in London. You'll see when it comes out. They've developed a non-alcoholic beer. So apparently I've built a career in working in alcohol, but I'm much more successful working in non-alcohol.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's one good thing.
Okay. All right. You got another one for me?
Yeah, that isn't my favorite answer.
No, that was a good answer. I'm not saying that. You look like you might have another one loaded up.
I think I'm okay today. And I think it's been months since we first spoke, right? In the last 3 weeks, I have had some of the darkest moments in dealing with lots of things. And in the last 3 days, and I couldn't tell you what, but being able to feel okay feels pretty amazing. And yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know why, because I've not done anything in the last 3 days, but definitely in the last 3 days, something has just clicked a bit better. It might be that we've got a little bit of sun in Scotland, so I'm going to take that.
Okay.
But yeah, that's why I paused.
Okay. All right. Well, always my final question on this podcast. If you can go back and talk to a younger version of yourself, what would you tell him?
I'm tempted to say, make the most of your health whilst you have it. But in some ways, that's to devalue what we have. See more of the world whilst you can is probably more useful. I think I think my younger self probably needs to know you'll be okay. I think the last 24 months have been an unexpected detour in life. And from there until now, my confidence in the future and my ability to find joy in simple things has just been evolving. So I want to know that that person that was told your leg is end of the road, your life is changing in ways you cannot even fathom, that just have a little bit more confidence than you had that it will be okay. I don't think my younger self would appreciate much guidance from my older self. I think my younger self will tell me to jog on. Thanks very much.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, Kieran, thanks for being on the podcast. Thanks for being who you are, for elevating what it means for the community to be a part of your journey. I'm rooting for you as you continue maybe speaking some more, rediscovering that confidence that meant so much to you. That sounded like something that was really important to you. And as you're writing and discovering that journey too, I'm looking forward to kind of seeing where it takes you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for everything you do. I think the anonymity of the internet, being able to listen to a podcast about other people going on their journey, when it always sounds like both guests are smiling, is a really brilliant piece of everyday joy. And you should definitely feel like you're making a positive difference. So I really appreciate the opportunity to chat to you.
Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of the podcast. I'll be honest, this episode was one of the harder ones to edit because I knew it was going to be long, but I couldn't think of cutting any of this. The dichotomy between the humor on one hand, the Cyndi Lauper boot, and the other of, I just don't know what the future's going to hold. Those are real tensions that adaptive athletes deal with all the time. And oftentimes we do that work internally. And the gift that Kieran gave me in this conversation was getting to just do that external processing with him through the context of this podcast. I think it was a gift to me, and I hope is a gift to you. The other thing that really stood out in the conversation was the power of community. Being able to find this podcast, being able to find the adaptive community, and what that's done for Kieran in his journey. So if this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe someone who just got a diagnosis, or someone who's looking for community themselves. This could be the episode that they need to hear. Leave a review, subscribe to the podcast. I'm Matt Hotho, and I'll see you next time.